So this is going to be targeted. This is day 2. And what we're doing here is we're reviewing graphing tangent. And we have y equals a times the tangent of b theta. Usually we say x, but we said b theta. A is the amplitude, but it's undefined. To find the period, it's going to be pi over b, or 180 over b. And then to find the vertical asymptotes, it's going to be pi over negative 2b, or pi over 2b. So what we're going to use, we're going to interchange between radians and degrees. Okay, so we're going to interchange between the two. So we know that the amplitude is negative 2, but it's really negligible. We know that the value of b is 3. So remember, to find the period, it's going to be pi over 3. So the period is pi over 3. Now, if you want to know what is that in degrees, then you know it's going to be 60 degrees. It's 60 degrees, and that's going to be the length of the period. So to find the asymptotes, it's going to be theta is equal to negative pi over 2 times b, which is 2 times 3. So theta equals negative pi over 6. Or if you want to convert it to degrees, it's going to be negative 30 degrees. That's going to be the first asymptote at negative 30 degrees. And you can see that here. Here is the asymptote. And so you know that the cycle, the period is 60 degrees. So here is the other asymptote that goes through 30. And you notice that it's going to repeat every 60 degrees. You will have an asymptote. Okay. So to find the period here, the period, and I'm going to use black, the period is equal to pi over the value that's here. So it's pi over 1, so the period is pi. I know that the asymptotes are going to be theta is equal to pi over 2 times b. This is the value b, so it's 1. So the asymptote is pi over 2, and the other asymptote is negative pi over 2 times 1, so it's negative pi over 2. So if you want to know what it is in degrees, then we can say that the period is 180 over pi. The pi's cancel, so the period is 180 degrees. Here we just multiply 180 over pi's, and the pi's cancel. So the second asymptote is at 90, and the other one is at negative 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the graph. I'm going to record how I'm fixing this up so you can do it on your own. So here the x-axis is going to be the degrees. And then the label for the y-axis is tangent. So the y-axis, what you're going to do is, so I'm going to go from negative, I know I should go from negative 90, but I'm going to go to 100. And then I'm going to go to 100. And I'll probably go by 45 degrees. That's so now I have it in degrees. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and write y equals 4 tangent of x. And you notice I do have asymptotes at x equals 90. And my other asymptote is at x equals negative 90. Okay, so I did do it correctly. The period is pi. The first asymptote is at negative 90, and the second asymptote is at 90. Number 2, we have y equals negative tangent of 2 theta. So what we're going to do is, we know that the amplitude is 1, but it's not going to affect the graph. We know the period is pi over b. In this case, it's going to be pi over 2, which is going to be 90 degrees. The period is 90. So we know that the period is 90. So to find the first asymptote, it's equal to pi over 2b. And we know that b is 2, so it's going to be pi over 2 times 2, which is pi over 4, which equals to 45 degrees. So the other asymptote is actually negative 45 degrees. All right? So remember, the amplitude is negligible. We don't have to deal with the amplitude. The period is pi over 2, which is 90 degrees. And we know the asymptotes are going to occur at 45 degrees and at negative 45 degrees. So let's go ahead and change this graph. And we're going to write negative, and you can see the reciprocal. I keep saying reciprocal, I mean it's going to be the reflection. Look what happens when I add a 2 here. You notice that the period is shorter. So I have to move my asymptotes 45 degrees and negative 45 degrees. And there is y equals negative tangent of 2x. For number 3, once again, we're going to start with the amplitude is 1, but it's non-existent. The next one is the period. We know the period for tangent is pi over b, and we know that b is 1/2. So it's pi over 1/2. And what happens when you have pi over 1 divided by 1/2? It's going to be pi over 1 times 2 over 1. So the period gets longer. So the period is 2 pi. So now what we have is to find the asymptotes, or the first asymptote. It's going to be over 2b. So it's going to be pi over 2 times 1/2. And you notice that 2 times 1/2 is 1. So one of the asymptotes is pi. Remember, the next one is going to be negative. So it's pi times it's a negative pi times 2 times 1/2. So it's negative pi. So you're going to see here that the period is going to get longer. So I'm going to go ahead and take away the negative. Instead of 2, I'm going to go ahead and write 1 divided by 2. Oh. Let me put parentheses around this. 1 divided by 2. Now, since our period is longer, I'm going to change the degrees here. We know that it goes from pi, so it's 180. So I'm going to say 200 to 200 degrees. Okay. And so you notice that we will have asymptotes at 180. And so you can see that asymptote there on the right, and then at negative 180. And you see it takes longer for this graph to do one period. So the period for this graph is pi over 3, which in this case it's going to be times 180 over pi, which is 60 degrees. So I know that it's going to take 60 degrees to traverse or to go over one period. So 3 times 60 is 180. So what I'm going to do is I think this will be okay, negative 200 to 200 as the range, as the length for the degrees. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put 2 or negative 2 tangent, and I'm going to go ahead and say 3x. Now you're probably wondering, where are the asymptotes? The asymptotes will occur at negative pi over 6, which is 30 degrees. So you're going to have x equals negative 30. X equals 30. X equals negative 60. I would say 120. $90. Then x equals negative 150. Okay. And I'll stop right there. The green lines, the vertical lines, describe the asymptotes, and the blue is tangent. And I have more than 2 cycles here. So this is what it's asking you to do, okay? So on number 4, 5, and 6, you need to graph at least 3 cycles of each tangent function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you how to find the asymptote, how to find the period, and then figure out how to do the different cycles, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. So for number 4, we do have a period. Which is pi over 4. That's a period, pi over 4. The first asymptote is pi over 2 times b. In this case, b is 4, so it's going to be pi over 8. The second asymptote is negative 2 times b. So it's negative pi over 8. Now, if you want to understand it better, and you can see it in degrees, I don't mind you converting. So it's 180 over pi. So 180 divided by 4 is 4 times 4 is 16. So it's 45 degrees. So it's 180 divided by 8. So it's going to be 22.5 degrees. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to erase all the different asymptotes. I know that for right now I'm going to go to negative 90 to let's say 360 just for right now. And I'm in degrees. So negative 2 tangent of 4x. And you notice that we have x equals negative 22.5. And I'm gonna make this a different color so we can kind of see the difference. Okay, so the next one is going to be at x equal 22.5. So now what you need to do is all you would need to do is add the period to the asymptote. So 22.5 plus 45. And that should give you 67.5. So x equals 67.5. And that is the next asymptote. So your question is, how do you figure that out? You just have to add the period to the previous asymptote, and that's how you get the next asymptote. So for example, we have 67.5, you would add 45 to that, because that's the length of the period, and you get 112. You get x equals 112.5. And of course, I'm going to change the color so you can see it. And I'm going to leave it like that. So there you go. Number 5 and number 6 are exactly the same. The only difference is the amplitude. So I'm not going to write it twice. We know that the period is going to be pi. We know that the first asymptote is going to be pi over 2b. In this case, it's going to be pi over 2. The second asymptote is pi over negative pi over 2b. So it's negative pi over 2. And basically 5 and 6 are the same. And you're not going to notice any difference. So what I'm going to do is so here is tangent of x. Here's tangent of x. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the first asymptote at x equal negative 90. And then the next asymptote at x equal 90. And so all you would have to do is add 90, so it's going to be x equal 180. Sorry, 270. you add 180 to 90, I'm sorry. So you can see 2 or 3 cycles there. And you're going to notice that there isn't going to be a difference between the 2 graphs. So the only thing I have to add is a 3. Slightly different, that's all it is. But it's basically the same. So 5 and 6 has the same information. The only difference is the amplitude, and it's very negligible, okay?